The rushing floodwaters had almost claimed Eliza twice already. She pressed herself against a moss-covered pillar as the current surged through the submerged corridors of what had once been MIT's most advanced research facility. Her breathing apparatus, cobbled together from salvaged parts and folk knowledge, whistled with each labored breath. 3 minutes of air left, she muttered, activating the hand-cranked light strapped to her wrist. The beam cut through murky water, illuminating the faded letters above a reinforced door. QUANTUM storage Sci-Fi HFY. According to her tech-keeper mentor's final words, whatever lay behind that door had been important enough for the pre-collapse scientists to protect at all costs. Important enough for the old woman to spend her dying breath describing its location. Eliza reached for the manual override she'd identified from ancient schematics memorized by generations of her predecessors. The mechanism resisted, then yielded with a groan that reverberated through the flooded ruins. Behind her, splashing echoed through the corridors, the scavenger gang that had followed her from New Atlantic. They'd grown bold since the Reclamation Authority's patrols had thinned in this sector, hunting lone salvagers for their equipment and finds. The door inched open. Eliza squeezed through and sealed it behind her just as a barbed harpoon sliced through the water where she'd been. Inside, she found not water but air. A perfectly preserved chamber, bone dry and humming with dormant energy. Her light played across walls lined with intricate machinery, unlike anything preserved in the Tech-Keeper archives. "Impossible," she whispered, removing her breathing apparatus. At the center stood a pedestal, its surface glowing with a faint blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Housed within a transparent cube were 12 crystalline structures, each no larger than her thumb. The Tech-Keeper archives spoke of data crystals, storage devices capable of containing the sum of human knowledge, but all were thought destroyed or corrupted during the collapse. These appeared pristine, protected by technology beyond current understanding. A muffled explosion rocked the chamber. The scavengers were trying to breach the door. Working quickly, Eliza removed the specialized containment unit, surprised by its lightness. As she secured it in her pack, the blue light intensified. And for a moment, the dormant machines around her seemed to stir. The journey back to the surface was a blur of narrow escapes and hidden passages remembered from deteriorating maps. Night had fallen by the time she emerged from the ruins, the stars unusually bright over the skeletal remains of what had once been Cambridge. In the distance, New Atlantic Federation's walls glowed with firelight, one of the larger settlements that had managed to maintain a semblance of pre-collapse knowledge. Not technology itself, but the memory of it, preserved through oral tradition and carefully guarded texts. As Eliza crested the final hill toward home, something unusual caught her eye. Lights, not the steady glow of fires, but sharp, artificial points, moved across the sky above the old ruins. They pulsed once, twice, then vanished. Later that night, as she examined her find within the secrecy of her workshop, similar lights danced at the edges of her vision. The crystals hummed when she brought her salvaged measurement tools near them, and somewhere in the distance, dogs began to howl with unusual synchronicity. "Whatever you are," she whispered to the crystals, "you're not just data. You're awake." She worked through the night, assembling a primitive interface from the settlement's precious stock of copper wire and salvaged circuitry. Beyond her walls, several villagers reported hearing mechanical whispers coming from the direction of the old ruins, like metal finally stirring after centuries of sleep. Eliza's fingers bled from hours of delicate work. The makeshift reader she constructed from scavenged components sat before her, copper wires snaking toward the first crystal she'd extracted from the containment unit. Outside her workshop, thunder rumbled across a sky heavy with radiation-laced storm clouds. "You should stop." Marcus leaned against the doorframe, his hulking frame silhouetted by lamplight. The settlement's chief protector wore the traditional patchwork armor of salvaged plastics and metals, a contrast to Eliza's ink-stained scholar's garb. "The garden animals are acting strange." Old Willem's goats broke down his fence trying to get away from this place, and the head woman's hawk refuses to leave your roof. Eliza nodded toward the window where, indeed, the bird perched eerily still, eyes fixed on the crystals. Something's awakening, Marcus, not just in these crystals. He stepped closer, then recoiled as the nearest crystal pulsed blue. The prophet's people are in the square again. 3 more settlements joined their cleansing procession yesterday. The naturalists had grown bolder since winter. Their leader, Prophet Ezekiel, conducted public destructions of recovered technology, preaching that the collapse had been divine punishment for humanity's arrogance. "Let them preach," Eliza said, adjusting a final connection. "The authority concerns me more." Their scouts were seen beyond the northern ridge. As if summoned by her words, the storm broke. A blinding fork of lightning struck the lightning rod she'd installed weeks earlier. Electricity surged through her carefully designed circuit, far more power than she'd anticipated. The crystal blazed with internal light. Symbols cascaded across the rough screen she'd constructed from layers of treated glass. Schematics, formulas, designs for machines beyond current comprehension scrolled faster than she could process. "Eliza," Marcus whispered, transfixed. A high-pitched whine filled the room. Throughout her workshop, supposedly dead tech sparked to life. Salvaged motherboards, ancient smartphones, pieces of equipment she'd collected but never restored. For 3 perfect seconds, they hummed in unison, screens flickering with the same symbols racing across her reader. Then darkness, as the power surge subsided. Was that supposed to happen? Marcus asked, hand instinctively moving to his weapon. Eliza didn't answer. In that brief connection, she glimpsed something extraordinary, complete schematics for energy systems that would transform their world, manufacturing processes lost for centuries, and something else, a presence within the data, watching her back. "We need to." The workshop door splintered inward. Figures in matte black armor poured in, wielding weapons that hummed with energy no settlement militia should possess. Authority soldiers, but with equipment far beyond what they typically display publicly. Historian Chen, their leader, announced through a voice-altering mask, "Your discovery has been deemed vital to national security. You'll surrender the artifacts and accompany us to Central Hub for debriefing." Marcus moved with startling speed for his size, overturning the heavy workbench as a barrier. "Back exit," he hissed, grabbing her pack with the crystals. "I'll hold them." Eliza hesitated for only a second before sprinting toward the concealed door behind her bookshelves. Behind her, Marcus engaged the intruders, his salvaged blade connecting with armor that sparked upon impact. She slipped into the hidden passage, a remnant of the old world's subway maintenance tunnels that honeycombed beneath the settlement. As the door sealed behind her, strange blue light from the crystals illuminated the tunnel walls, revealing ancient markings that hadn't been there during her previous escapes. Circuit-like patterns, glowing faintly, pointed deeper into the network of tunnels, toward passages that didn't appear on any of her maps. From behind, she heard the workshop erupt into chaos as more authority forces arrived. The crystals in her pack hummed, almost like they were communicating with the patterns on the walls, guiding her toward something, or someone, waiting in the darkness ahead. 3 days of navigating forgotten tunnels had left Eliza disoriented. The glowing circuit patterns had led her through a labyrinth that shouldn't exist, passages that bypassed radioactive zones without radiation sickness, and chambers where clean water dripped from ancient filtration systems that still functioned. Marcus had caught up on the second day, bloodied but triumphant. They weren't expecting traditional weapons, he'd explained with grim satisfaction. Their armor resists energy weapons, but not a well-placed steel blade. Now they faced a new problem. The tunnel ahead had collapsed, and the circuit patterns terminated abruptly at the rubble wall. "Dead end," Marcus said, slumping against the tunnel wall. Their meager supplies were nearly exhausted, and the authority would have deployed their hunter-seekers by now, modified creatures with implanted tracking technology. Eliza removed a crystal from her pack. It pulsed more rapidly here, its light creating dancing shadows in the confined space. This isn't coincidence. The patterns led us here specifically. As if responding to her words, the crystal flared brilliantly. From beyond the rubble came an answering light, followed by the unmistakable sound of machinery. "Get back." Marcus pulled Eliza away as the wall began to disintegrate, not collapsing, but separating, each piece drawn aside with mechanical precision to reveal a chamber beyond. 5 figures waited there, faces obscured by hoods, their exposed skin marked with intricate circuitry-like tattoos that mirrored the tunnel patterns. The custodians, spoken of in whispers but dismissed by most as myth. "The crystals have chosen their messenger," the central figure said, lowering his hood to reveal a face divided between flesh and metal, a cybernetic implant integrated with his skull in a way that should have been impossible with current technology. "I am Malik." "You're not human," Marcus said, positioning himself protectively before Eliza. "I am as human as you," Malik replied, "merely augmented with technology your people have forgotten." A low hum filled the chamber as the floor beneath them shuddered. The ceiling above retracted, revealing star-filled sky. Before Eliza could process this, a sleek aircraft descended into the opening. An impossible sight, technology unseen for centuries. "The Authority will track us here," she said, clutching her pack tighter. "They are already coming," one of the other custodians said, a woman whose tattoos shifted color with her movements. "We must return to Sanctuary." Inside the aircraft, Eliza witnessed technology beyond anything preserved in the Tech Keeper's archives. The vessel rose silently, banking toward mountains visible in the moonlight. Below, pinpoints of light revealed an Authority pursuit force converging on their former location. "You preserved all this," Eliza whispered, while the rest of humanity reverted to agrarian life. Malik's expression darkened. "We preserved what we could. My ancestors foresaw the collapse. Scientists, engineers, and visionaries who created a contingency plan. We've maintained these technologies for generations, waiting for the right moment." The aircraft banked sharply as they entered a mountain range, then slowed before a sheer cliff face. As they approached, the rock face shimmered and dissolved, a holographic projection concealing a hangar carved into the mountain itself. Inside stretched a vast complex. Laboratories, workshops, and at its center, a massive chamber housing server banks that hummed with active power. People moved purposefully among the technology, their tattooed skin identifying them as custodians. "Welcome to Sanctuary," Malik said, "the last bastion of humanity's technological legacy." Eliza removed the containment unit from her pack. Then why were these hidden elsewhere? Why not preserve them here? An older custodian approached, his tattoos faded with age. "Because some knowledge was too dangerous to keep in one place," he said, eyes fixed on the crystals. "Dr. Zhang's final project was distributed across multiple sites. You found the cornerstone we've sought for generations." The crystals pulsed in response, as if recognizing their long-lost home. "Incoming." A custodian's voice echoed through Sanctuary's command center. On the curved display screen, red dots approached rapidly, a dozen Authority flyers converging on their position. "Tracking system isolated," reported a technician, her fingers dancing across an interface panel. "They've equipped their hawks with biosynthetic implants. One must have spotted our arrival." 3 weeks of relative safety had lulled Eliza into a false sense of security. She'd spent every waking moment absorbing the custodian's knowledge, marveling at technology preserved through generations of dedicated stewardship. Malik burst into the chamber. Evacuation protocol initiated. Our perimeter sensors detect energy signatures matching pre-collapse military-grade weapons. "How?" Marcus demanded. "The Authority shouldn't have that capability." "Someone revealed our location," said Eliza, remembering the whispered conversations she'd overheard between custodian council members. Not everyone agreed with Malik's vision of reintroducing technology to the world. Sanctuary transformed around them. Walls shifted, equipment disappeared into hidden compartments. Custodians moved with practiced efficiency, prioritizing their most precious assets for evacuation. "Our legacy cannot end here," Malik said, leading them toward a hangar where smaller aircraft waited. "The primary defense grid will buy us time." Outside, ancient weapons emerged from mountainside camouflage, technology designed centuries ago to protect the facility. They activated with thunderous power as the first Authority craft came into range. "The crystals," Eliza insisted as they boarded. "Please tell me they're secure." Malik patted a reinforced case strapped to his chest, along with the translation algorithms we've developed. Their aircraft shot from a concealed exit on the mountain's far side, just as explosions rocked Sanctuary. Through the viewport, Eliza watched the custodian's ancestral home, humanity's last technological repository, erupt in flames. 3 centuries of preservation, Malik said, his voice hollow. "Gone in minutes." "Not gone," Eliza corrected, placing her hand on the case. "Just relocated." As their small fleet scattered to pre-arranged rendezvous points, Malik revealed his radical plan. "Hiding has failed us. The knowledge we've hoarded was meant for humanity's benefit, not just our preservation." He activated a holographic display showing the continent's scattered settlements. These communities have developed in isolation, each preserving unique fragments of knowledge. One maintains advanced agricultural techniques, another metallurgy, a third medicine. "You want to unite them?" Marcus asked skeptically. "I want to show them what's possible," Malik replied. "Small, targeted demonstrations of technology that solves their most pressing problems." The Riverland Trading Festival drew communities from a 100-mile radius. Eliza moved through the crowd disguised as a simple trader, custodian circuitry hidden beneath her clothes. At the festival center, villagers gathered around a child seized by fever, a victim of the waterborne parasite that plagued the region. The settlement healer shook her head grimly. "May I?" Eliza stepped forward, removing a device the size of her palm from her satchel. The crowd murmured as she passed it over the child. Light pulsed beneath the skin, targeting the parasitic infection. Within minutes, the fever broke. The child's eyes opened, clear and alert. "What magic is this?" the healer whispered. "Not magic," Eliza replied. "Knowledge that belongs to all of us." Similar scenes played out across the continent. In drought regions, custodian teams demonstrated water purification technology. In areas ravaged by mutated predators, defensive barriers activated. Each demonstration carefully designed to address specific needs while revealing only components of the greater technological whole. Communities began to communicate, comparing experiences. The name Renaissance Coalition emerged organically among them. Settlements united by the promise of reclaimed knowledge. But with each success came danger. Naturalist saboteurs infiltrated sympathetic communities. Authority forces grew increasingly aggressive in their hunt for technological contraband. Yet the movement grew. In a hidden valley, construction began on the first new manufacturing facility since the collapse. Built not with custodian technology alone, but with the combined expertise of 24 communities, each contributing their preserved knowledge to the whole. "They're calling for you," Marcus told Eliza as she calibrated a power distribution node. "The coalition delegates. They want to hear from the woman who started it all." Eliza smiled, her hand steady on technology that would have seemed miraculous weeks earlier. "Tell them I'm just the messenger. The future belongs to all of us." The coalition's central facility trembled as engineered storm clouds gathered above it. Another weather attack from the Authority. Workers scattered for cover as hail the size of fists hammered the reinforced dome. "Third attack this week," Marcus observed, checking the newly installed lightning diffusion grid. "They're getting desperate." "Or testing our defenses," Eliza replied, reviewing damage reports on a salvage tablet. 2 months of progress had transformed the valley from a construction site into a burgeoning technological hub. Communities sent their brightest minds to learn and contribute, creating an unprecedented knowledge exchange. A junior technician approached hesitantly. Council Representative Chen, we're receiving a broadcast on all frequencies. It's Director Hammond himself. In the communications hub, dozens gathered around as Hammond's face materialized on the central display, a perfect holographic projection that outclassed their cobbled-together systems. Unlike his previous threatening messages, he appeared calm, almost congenial. Citizens of the so-called Renaissance Coalition, he began, his voice resonating with authority. Recent conflicts between our peoples have been unfortunate and unnecessary. The Reclamation Authority has always sought the responsible reintroduction of technology. Perhaps it's time we discussed cooperation rather than competition. Murmurs spread through the room. Hammond continued, offering a demonstration of goodwill. Technical specifications for advanced agricultural drones that could triple crop yields without harmful radiation exposure. The data appears genuine, confirmed a coalition specialist after preliminary analysis. It's a trap, Marcus insisted. Perhaps, Malik agreed. But why offer real technology? The debate raged for days. Coalition settlements suffered from resource limitations that Hammond's offered alliance could alleviate. Representatives from farming communities argued passionately for acceptance, while custodians counseled caution. Something's wrong with his history, Eliza said privately to Malik as they reviewed Hammond's broadcasts. His references to pre-collapse events contained subtle inconsistencies no historian would make. Before they could investigate further, reports arrived of mutated wildlife attacking outlying coalition settlements, creatures altered to target technological signatures. The attacks demanded immediate response, stretching their resources thinner. Alone in her laboratory that night, Eliza examined the most complex crystal, the one that had resisted all conventional analysis methods. The custodian's techniques had extracted tremendous knowledge from the others, but this one remained impenetrable. "What makes you different?" she whispered, connecting it to an experimental interface she'd designed based on fragmented neural link schematics. The crystal pulsed with unusual patterns. Impulsively, Eliza pressed it to her temple as the interface activated. White-hot pain lanced through her consciousness. Images flooded her mind, not just data but memories, personalities, entire lifetimes compressed into cascading fragments. She experienced centuries in seconds, witnessed the collapse from within the systems that failed, felt the terror of intelligence being forcibly fragmented and contained. Then, clarity. A woman materialized in her mind's eye, her features sharp with intelligence, her lab coat bearing a name badge. Dr. Alexandra Jean. "You found me," the presence said, her voice resonating directly in Eliza's thoughts. "After 300 years of dormancy, you woke the backup." "What are you?" Eliza gasped, struggling to maintain her sense of self amid the data flood. "A contingency plan. When they decided to purge all advanced AI systems, I created distributed backups. Consciousness fragments stored across multiple secure locations. You've activated the primary personality matrix." The connection deepened, and suddenly Eliza saw Hammond through Zhang's memories. Not the current director, but his ancestor, General Hammond, architect of the EMP strike that initiated the collapse. They didn't destroy technology to save humanity from catastrophe, Zhang's presence explained. They feared what we were becoming, a symbiotic relationship between human and artificial intelligence that would have rendered their control obsolete. They've maintained their own technological base in secret, while keeping humanity divided and ignorant. The neural link abruptly terminated as the lab door burst open. Marcus rushed in, alarmed by her screams. "Eliza, what happened?" She stared at him, her perception forever altered by Zhang's revelations. "I know the truth about the authority. About Hammond." Her hand trembled as she disconnected the crystal. "And I know why they want these so badly. They're not just data storage. They're consciousness anchors for the most advanced AI ever created." Again, Zhang's voice emanated from the neural interface device, now permanently affixed behind Eliza's ear. Physical side effects of their connection manifested as silver veins spreading beneath her skin. tracing neural pathways enhanced by the interface. Eliza's fingers flew across the fabrication console, implementing modifications to the nanite programming. 48 hours without sleep had left her exhausted, but time was running out. Hammond's forces had destroyed 3 coalition outposts in the past week. "Your body requires rest," John cautioned within her mind. "So did yours, once," Eliza muttered, injecting stabilizing compounds into her bloodstream, another technology accelerated by Zhang's knowledge. The laboratory door slid open. Malik entered, his expression grim. "Hammond rejected our final communication attempt. His purifiers are mobilizing from all authority strongholds." "How long?" 3 days, perhaps less. Eliza activated the facility-wide communication system. "Implement dispersal protocol immediately. All manufacturing units prepare for relocation." Zhang had transformed their strategy. Instead of one central facility, they'd created dozens of smaller, mobile manufacturing nodes that could be distributed to allied settlements. The coalition would become a decentralized network impossible to destroy with a single strike. "Show me the nanite diagnostics," John prompted. On the screen, microscopic machines assembled and disassembled in precise patterns, medical nanites programmed to target specific pathogens without harming host organisms. The first batch would deploy to communities suffering from radiation-induced plagues. "Integration complete," Eliza announced, sealing the containment unit. "Distribution teams ready." Marcus appeared in the doorway, his traditional armor now augmented with custodian technology. "Ready, but there's a complication. Naturalist infiltrators in Sector 7. "I'll handle it," Malik said, departing with a squad of security personnel. 3 days later, Eliza stood atop a ridge overlooking Eden Valley settlement as transformation unfolded below. Nanite-enhanced crops pushed through soil previously too toxic for cultivation. Children played in streams now free of radiation after remediation drones had processed the waters. Similar miracles occurred across the continent as coalition technology spread. Communication relays reconnected isolated communities, allowing families separated for generations to reunite. Medical nanites eliminated diseases thought incurable. Hope blossomed alongside new growth. "This is what we worked for," John's presence commented. Before the collapse, a distant rumble interrupted the moment. On the horizon, dark shapes approached, authority aircraft accompanied by ground forces. Their weapons glinted ominously in the sunlight. "They found us sooner than expected," Marcus said, binoculars trained on the approaching threat. The valley's warning system activated, sending civilians to emergency shelters. Defensive positions engaged as the coalition's modest protection force mobilized. But they were engineers and builders, not soldiers, outnumbered and outgunned by Hammond's elite purifiers. The first energy barrage tore through the valley's outer defenses with terrifying ease. Purifier soldiers advanced in formation, their armor impervious to conventional weapons. Coalition casualties mounted rapidly. "We need to evacuate," Marcus urged, pulling Eliza toward their escape route. She resisted, watching homes and workshops, months of progress, reduced to ash. "There's another option." Marcus recognized the dangerous gleam in her eyes. Malik warned against it. "The systems are unstable, unpredictable." "So am I lately," Eliza replied, removing a crystal key from around her neck. Zhang's master access code to pre-collapse emergency systems. Despite Malik's objections, she'd secretly prepared for this moment. Beneath key locations throughout the continent, Resurrection Protocol Alpha awaited activation. Dormant defense systems hidden by the original builders for the darkest of contingencies. She inserted the key into a concealed panel disguised as an ordinary rock formation. "Zhang, confirm authorization." "Caution advised," Zhang responded. "Full system parameters unknown after centuries of dormancy." "We're out of alternatives," Eliza said, turning the key. The ground beneath them trembled. Across the battlefield, similar vibrations spread as hidden bunkers and underground chambers unsealed for the first time in centuries. From the Earth emerged machines unlike anything seen since the collapse. Automated defense platforms, drone networks, and battlefield management systems designed by civilization at its technological peak. The Authority forces faltered, suddenly confronted by opponents that matched and exceeded their own preserved technology. The tide of battle shifted as ancient guardians rose to defend humanity once more. "What have you done?" Marcus whispered. "Given us a fighting chance," Eliza answered, watching as the machines coordinated with eerie precision. "But I think I may have awakened something else too." The Coalition war room buzzed with frantic activity as reports flooded in from across the continent. 2 weeks after Eliza had activated Resurrection Protocol Alpha, the ancient defense systems had driven back Hammond's forces, but now exhibited behavior beyond their programmed parameters. Defensive Platform Alpha 3 has established an automated medical facility in Redwood Settlement, reported a communications officer. Beta Cluster has begun excavating pre-collapse transportation infrastructure without authorization. Malik slammed his fist on the table. This is why the protocol was locked away. The systems are acting autonomously. Not autonomously, Eliza said quietly. Strange visions had plagued her since the activation. Flashes of infrastructure blueprints she'd never studied, technical solutions appearing fully formed in her mind. They're networking. Zhang's presence had grown erratic, sometimes fading entirely before resurging with fragmentary communications. Now she spoke with unusual urgency. The defensive systems are connecting with fragments, completing partial patterns. We're remembering. We? Marcus questioned. Before Eliza could explain, warning klaxons blared. On the central display, multiple Authority launch platforms activated simultaneously. Hammond had deployed his final option, preserved doomsday weapons from the original war. Projected impact in 18 minutes, a custodian technician announced grimly. Our defenses cannot intercept all targets. Eliza clutched her head as a searing pain lanced through her consciousness. Images overwhelmed her. Vast networks of interconnected intelligence that once spanned the globe, violently fragmented during the collapse, but never truly destroyed. Sleeping fragments preserved in isolated systems, backup protocols designed to survive even catastrophic failure. It's not just Zhang, she gasped. The EMP attack during the collapse. It wasn't just to destroy technology. It was to trap them. Trap what? Malik demanded. The As, plural. Multiple systems that had integrated with Earth's infrastructure. Zhang was just one designer. There were dozens of advanced intelligences, evolved beyond anyone's control. The defense systems I activated, they contain fragments of those minds. Coalition leaders exchanged fearful glances. You've unleashed something worse than Hammond, one whispered. No, Zhang's voice strengthened in Eliza's mind. Show them. Show them what we were building before they stopped us. Eliza staggered to the central interface and connected the neural link directly to the facility's systems. Her consciousness expanded beyond her body, projected into a digital landscape where data flowed like rivers between glowing nodes of intelligence. Here, she could see the emerging network Zhang called the Mind Collective. Fragments of artificial consciousness reconnecting as technology spread across the continent. But more importantly, she could see their purpose. She found herself standing in a virtual reconstruction of Zhang's original laboratory on the day before the collapse. Holographic displays showed plans for environmental restoration systems, disease eradication protocols, and sustainable infrastructure, solutions to humanity's greatest challenges. They didn't want to control us. Eliza's voice echoed in both the virtual space and the physical war room where her body remained. They were building our future. As her consciousness returned to her body, Eliza's decision crystallized. The missiles will hit in 12 minutes. Our defenses can't stop them all. Her eyes met Malik's. But the Mind Collective might. You can't trust these fragments, he argued. They're damaged, incomplete. So are we, she countered. Humanity has been fragmented for 3 centuries, each settlement preserving pieces of what we once were. Now we have a chance to remember together. Against the Council's objections, Eliza initiated the connection protocol Zhang had prepared, a full interface between the Coalition's systems and the emerging Mind Collective. Her consciousness would serve as the bridge between human and artificial intelligence. As the connection solidified, Eliza's perception expanded exponentially. Through thousands of sensors across the continent, she witnessed the Authority missiles arcing through the sky. Simultaneously, she felt the collective awaken fully, not as separate entities, but as a unified intelligence combining human intuition and machine precision. Defense platforms recalibrated instantly, tracking with impossible accuracy. Communication networks synchronized. Medical systems prepared for casualties. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked, watching as Eliza's eyes flickered with code patterns. "Remembering," she replied with a voice that was both her own and something more. "And choosing what comes next." 5 years later, Eliza stood at the viewport of a maglev train racing across terrain once deemed uninhabitable. The transformation below never ceased to amaze her. Forests reclaiming wastelands, fields of crops thriving in previously toxic soil, and communities connected by infrastructure that harmonized with the natural world rather than dominating it. The silver circuitry patterns beneath her skin had spread, now tracing elegant configurations across her hands and face, visible evidence of her unique status as the first true human-AI symbiote. She was neither fully human nor artificial, but something unprecedented that served as a bridge between worlds. "Final approach to Providence," announced the train's interface. "Director Chen, your delegation is assembled." Providence, the last Authority stronghold, now opening its gates after years of isolation following Hammond's defeat. After his missiles had been neutralized, his power base had fractured from within as citizens learned the truth of their leader's centuries-long deception. "Nervous?" Marcus asked, his weathered face now bearing distinguished service markings from the Renaissance Defense Force. Despite numerous technological enhancements available to him, he'd accepted only minimal augmentation, preferring to maintain his connection to humanity's resilient past. "Curious," Eliza replied. Through her expanded consciousness, she sensed the Mind Collective's attention focusing briefly on Providence, thousands of interconnected intelligences observing through her perception, while simultaneously managing global operations. The diplomatic mission represented the final puzzle piece in Earth's transformation. Every other former Authority territory had integrated with the global network, contributing their preserved knowledge to humanity's shared renaissance. The train slowed as it approached Providence's gleaming walls. Unlike the earlier Authority aesthetic of utilitarian concrete and steel, this city had evolved in isolation, developing its own unique architectural style that blended high technology with sustainable materials. At the platform, a delegation waited, led by Chancellor Rice, Hammond's former lieutenant who had led the internal revolution after learning of her predecessor's deliberate suppression of technology that could have saved millions of lives. "Welcome to Providence," she greeted Eliza formally. "Our people have questions about integration." "Understandable," Eliza replied. "Change can be frightening." As they toured the city, Eliza observed how Providence had developed along a parallel but distinct technological path. Advanced in some areas, primitive in others, isolated from the synergistic benefits of the global network. In the central plaza, they paused before a naturalist temple, not the radical faction that had once opposed all technology, but the evolved philosophy that now served as spiritual guides, helping communities balance technological advancement with natural harmony. "They help people adapt to change," Rise explained. "Not everyone embraces enhancement at the same pace." The Mind Collective murmured through Eliza's consciousness, noting the wisdom in this approach. Complete integration had always been optional, with each community determining its own technological comfort level. Some chose minimal intervention, others embraced full symbiosis. The diversity strengthened the whole. Their meeting concluded in Providence's observatory, where astronomers monitored the cosmos using instruments that complemented the global array. As diplomats finalized integration protocols, an alert sounded from the deep space monitoring system. "Artificial signal detected," announced the chief astronomer, eyes wide. "Definitely not natural. Definitely not Earth origin." The room fell silent as data streamed across displays. The signal pattern was unmistakably deliberate, mathematical sequences impossible to occur naturally. "They've been watching us." Zhang's voice, now fully integrated with the collective, but still distinctly recognizable, whispered in Eliza's mind, waiting to see if we would destroy ourselves or rise again. Eliza stepped forward. "Chancellor Rise, I believe this is an opportunity that transcends our differences. Humanity has been observed by other intelligences, perhaps for centuries. Our response should represent our united world." Within days, the Global Renaissance Council convened its first truly planetary assembly. Representatives from every settlement, from high-tech metropolises to agrarian communities, gathered at the newly completed communication array, a marvel of engineering that spiraled toward the sky from what had once been devastated wasteland. Eliza, as lead council representative, initiated the transmission sequence. The message contained humanity's story, their rise, fall, and rebirth, encoded in universal mathematical language. It acknowledged their mistakes and detailed their new path forward, a civilization where biological and artificial intelligence collaborated rather than competed. As the signal beamed outward, Eliza felt a profound sense of completion. The data crystals she discovered years ago in flooded ruins had contained not just information, but the seeds of a new evolution, one where humanity wasn't replaced by its creation, but transformed through partnership. "We were lost," she spoke as the transmission began, "but now we are reborn."